Unless you've been hiding under a rock, you've probably seen at this point some kind of headline that's talking about either the 6% or the National Association of Realtors lawsuits and the proposed settlement. And so what I want to do today is just talk you through how it's going to impact you, starting with you as a consumer. So first and foremost, I have to give you this little snippet. I've been licensed for 10 years. And I've only been licensed in the state of Colorado. The lawsuits that are in play right now are not in the state of Colorado. And the settlement that's proposed by the National Association of Realtors is just that, it's national. So I'm gonna speak about my experience in Colorado, and I'm gonna speak about how it's gonna affect you, making some generalizations nationwide, but just know I'm only licensed here in the state of Colorado. So first and foremost, the two big changes that are proposed based on the settlement are a big, huge payout. There's actually three. A big, huge payout. And I will tell you that the attorneys will probably get around 60% of that, as always. And then it is a class action lawsuit. So you'll probably get something in the mail that says, have you bought or sold a home? And if so, you're entitled to XYZ, and you'll get, $8 to $10 like we do with all these class action lawsuits. So as a consumer, that's one thing that I'm getting the question on is like, will I get money? And the truth is, like any other class action lawsuit, you will, and if you do, it will not be a high impact dollar, okay? But the two main points of how we're looking to move ahead is that a buyer agency agreement will now be required for consumers, for you, when buying a home. And the second is that the potential co-op, which is the cooperative broker fee that's paid to a buyer's agent, will no longer be disclosed on the MLS. So starting with number one, buyer agency requirements. We already have those in the state of Colorado. All that is a contract between me as a realtor or a real estate agent and you as a consumer, client, principal on the contract saying, I'm working for you and only you in this transaction. And if anything were to change, I'm going to let you know. It also in the state of Colorado discloses how we get compensated. So we're already doing that. That shouldn't change for anyone here. And for any of the states that don't require that, this is a positive move. That kind of disclosure and transparency is super important, especially when you're investing in potentially the biggest asset of your life, right? So that kind of disclosure and to talk about one, how we're serving, how we're getting compensated, and our duties to you as a consumer, which are called our brokerage duties. So that's the first big change. The second is that the co-op, the cooperating broker fee, will no longer be able to be disclosed on the MLS. This is where I think we sit in a little bit of a both and. Will this change some things? Could this change some things? Yes, absolutely. And we're still not really sure how, to be honest. The document, the settlement itself, I understand is 137 pages. I have not read it. I will read excerpts of it, I'm sure, but it's a very long document, okay? The important thing to know is that the focus is on transparency. So in my opinion, the transparency of listing the co-op and what's being paid to a buyer's agent online actually feels more transparent. So by removing that, I don't know that we're actually getting to the point of transparency there. However, if that's how they're moving forward, then what is that going to look like? Okay. So as someone representing a buyer's agent, the minute I got into real estate, I started telling people, this is how I get compensated. Anyone who was out there going like, use a buyer's agent, it's free. That would be only devaluing me and my role serving buyers. Okay. We've always talked about how we're compensated and what we tell our clients, and they sign the buyer agency that says we will be compensated from the transaction, or you will be responsible for compensating us, and we will discuss what that looks like with you. And so we've worked with clients that have bought off property, right? Bought properties that are off the MLS, right? They're called pocket listings, whatever you want to call them, before they come to market. Or maybe it's from a neighbor or whatever it is. We've negotiated our compensation into contracts already. We talk about FSBOs a lot in the industry, and I think that term is a very industry term, but it means for sale by owner. You've always had the opportunity to sell your home on your own, and you've always had the opportunity to buy your home on your own. However, you are engaging the service of a professional, and therefore we're compensated for it. traditionally and typically, it has been paid at the closing, from the closing of the sale of the home. So the lawsuits are saying that the sellers were forced to pay based on implications that they were forced to pay a buyer's agent. What I would always tell my buyers is the seller's paying it all, or maybe you're paying it all, but whatever it is, it's wrapped into the purchase price. And so it's not requiring that anyone bring any additional cash to closing for that specific transaction. And that's always how we've explained it, is we're getting paid from the transaction. Our compensation is baked into the purchase price, right? So in the end, most of the time we're getting paid from the transaction. I anticipate we'll continue to find solutions like that because coming up with the additional money as a buyer, in addition to down payment funds and closing costs for the loan, is a lot to ask, especially as home prices continue to rise. So that's how we've been compensated. When I've helped buyers buy homes directly from owners, we've negotiated a compensation, a percentage. Is it a percentage? Is it a flat rate? Whatever it is that makes sense for all parties. In the end, you're hiring somebody to negotiate on your behalf. So I'm also going to negotiate my own compensation. So one, there's been this understanding, right? Part of that, not disclosing the co-op piece. There's been this perception that the seller has been forced to pay a co-op to the buyer's agent all of these years. Oh, the second piece of that is that they've been forced at this percentage, 6%. I can tell you, I've been in the industry for 10 years. I have never once been guaranteed or had any kind of fixed rate of my services. When people want to get into real estate, I say it is a commission-only sales position and it may be 6 months before you ever get paid. Are you comfortable knowing that that's the career you're choosing? We have to sell ourselves to you as clients all day, every day. And I have never once sat down with a person selling their home and not brought my value, explained my value, and then explained my compensation. So again, I'm speaking from my experience. I'm speaking from the state of Colorado. I am 100% sure that there are other agents around the country who have not disclosed these things. There were probably decades of it happening. I'm saying, as somebody who's done it for 10 years, I've never had that experience. I tell people, you're interviewing for a job to get a new job. I interview for a job every single time I sit down with a new client. And as a brokerage owner, I do the same when I sit down with an agent. My role is negotiated every single time I serve a client. So while some of the messaging right now is you can negotiate you can negotiate how you compensate your agent, I would say you've always been able to negotiate how you compensate your agent. And if I have served you or anyone on my team has served you and you didn't feel like that was your experience, please reach out to me directly. And if you've worked with an agent before who didn't disclose that to you, reach out to them, talk to them about it, or find me and I'll help you talk to them about it. It's all about asking the right questions. So in the end, while there's these two main components, one, buyer agency required across the country, I say thumbs up, heck yes, fuck yeah, however you want to say it. Yes, transparency, disclosure, it was still this year, I would see people on Instagram being like, buyer agency, I'm free. I'm a free agent for you. And I'd be like, why would you say that? You have no value. So one, buyer agency, absolutely, across the country, great idea. Two, we're no longer going to have the co-op listed in the MLS. And that to me is the both and of okay, that's going to change some things and I'm still not exactly sure how. Okay. The good news is that transparency that's being brought in by the buyer agency is going to empower you with the tools as a consumer to have the conversation. In the end, you are responsible, like anything else in life, for advocating for yourself. And I encourage you to do so. Have there been agents that were predatory and played on the fact that people were doing it for the first time? Or only go buy and sell houses every 10 years? Absolutely. I'm sure there are. There's dirtbags in every profession. Find someone you trust, ask hard questions, and make sure they're the right fit for you. Because when it comes to home ownership, it is important that you are being represented because the liability you're taking on as a homeowner is far more expensive than any buyer agent fee you'll ever pay, whether that's as a part of a transaction or otherwise. So with that, let's keep the dialogue going of how we're serving clients. Let's keep the dialogue going on how you as consumers are able to build wealth through real estate and knowing what your options are when doing that.